everybody, I'm Heidi and this is
Millicent. Hey!
So today we are here in the month of February. We are celebrating Black History Month and we are going to be reading a story that is not told enough. It is the legend of John Henry and it's representing some amazing principles we're going to talk about.
But tell them who is behind these videos. Well, it's Choppy Trading Company and Alter New Media. Yay!
Well, today we are going to tell a traditional American story called A Tall Tale, which we mentioned a little bit earlier. This is adapted, this story, by a writer named George Grow, and he says that a tall tale is a story about a person who is larger than life. The descriptions in the story are exaggerated, much greater than in real life. And long ago, the people who settled in undeveloped areas of America first told tall tales. And after a hard day's work, people gathered to tell each other stories. Each group of workers had its own tall tale hero. An African-American man named John Henry was the hero of the people who built the railroads, and he was the hero of former slaves.
Oh, but Heidi, what do they mean when they say slaves?
Well, Millicent, that's a good question. This is a very important topic to discuss, especially this month. And we're going to also talk about this historically in another video besides this one a little bit later on. But for now, back during the years of 1861 to 1865, that's just 157 to 161 years ago, here in the United States, the states were divided by the northern states and the southern states.
Oh,
yeah, and back then we went to war to end enslavement, where we were making sure that no man or woman or person has the right to control over another person's rights or life, or to say that they own another person. And that's what they're talking about here when they say enslavement.
Oh, I understand.
Yeah, because we are all created equal here on earth. So all people are created equal and shall always be treated that way. Do you understand, Melissa?
Yes, I do. I understand. And it's sad that happened, Heidi, and I'm really happy you're explaining all this to me. Thank you.
I know it's a lot, but it's important to understand so you understand the story we're about to tell. So, back to some history first, okay?
Okay.
So, in 1865, the government of the United States passed a thing called the 13th Amendment. And that made sure it was a law that this would never happen again, that they'd be ending enslavement for good, and it would never be able to occur again here in our country.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, because back then it was happening in the southern states, and that's why the North and the South battled in a war over this principle. This is the war that they call the Civil War, because it dealt with our rights as human beings to one another. Okay?
Yes, I understand.
So now, to understand about John Henry was perhaps the most famous worker ever. He was born a slave in the United States in the South, and he became a free man as a result of the Civil War.
Yay!
I know, it's fantastic. And then he worked for the railroad.
Yeah, the railroad, those are what trains travel on, right?
Yes, super smart of you, yes.
Yay!
Well, John Henry was known for his strength. Railroads began to link the United States together in the 19th century. And that is when the years started, starting by the 1800s.
I see.
So, like I said, that was only 157 years ago.
Wow, it still seems like a far time away.
I know. But let me tell you more about the railroad.
Okay.
Anyway, the railroads made it possible to travel from one side of the country to the other in less than a week.
Wow.
Yeah, which is taken for granted now, because before then, the same trip might have taken up to 6 months.
6 months?
Yes. People went through horseback, all kinds of other ways, and it was very rough terrain.
I see.
So railroad companies employed thousands of workers to create the smooth, flat pathways required by the trains to get from one place to the other.
I see.
So, back to some facts about the story now.
Okay.
Confirming details 100% of John Henry's life is not really 100% possible. But that's because no one knows for sure if he really lived.
But wait. Oh, I don't understand.
Well, like I told you, it was a tall tale. So, now this is one of the things that makes his story interesting and makes it be considered a tall tale.
Okay, explain.
Well, however, John Henry is based in part on real events that did occur. So that's what happens usually in a tall tale. It's mixed with some real events and some larger-than-life events.
Okay.
Well, many people say he represents the spirit of growth in America during this period, and to this day also represents the deserved freedom of every African American, especially during this time in history. Okay, Millicent?
Yes, it's great. Thank you.
Well, will you do me the honors?
Yes. So, here's the legend of John Henry.
Thank you.
Okay.
So, people still talk about the night John Henry was born. It was dark and cloudy. Then, lightning lit up the night sky. John Henry's birth was a big event. His parents showed him to everyone they met.
Why?
Well, John Henry was the most powerful-looking baby people had ever seen. He had thick arms, wide shoulders, and very strong muscles.
Wow.
Yeah, John Henry started growing when he was 1 day old. He continued growing until he was the strongest man who ever lived.
Wow.
John Henry grew up in a world that did not let children stay children for long. So one day, he was sitting on his father's knee, and the boy picked up a small piece of steel and a workman's tool, a hammer. He looked at the two objects, then said, "A hammer will be the death of me."
I'm hoping that's not the real case, Heidi.
I know, Millicent, I agree. Well, let's hear the rest of the story.
Okay.
So I'll continue. Before John Henry was 6 years old, he was carrying stones for workers building a nearby railroad. And by the age of 10, he worked from early in the morning until night. Often, he would stop and listen to the sound of a train far away. Oh, and he told his family, "I am going to be a steel driver someday." Now, steel drivers helped create pathways for the railroad lines. And these laborers had the job of cutting holes into rock.
Oh, I was wondering what that was.
Yeah. Well, they did this by hitting thick steel drills or spikes through the rock to make the hole.
I see.
Well, by the time John Henry was a young man, he was one of the best steel drivers in the country.
Wow.
Yeah, he could work for hours without missing a beat. People said he worked so fast that his hammer moved like lightning. John Henry was almost 2 meters tall, which is equal to 6 feet 5 inches, and he weighed more than 90 kilograms, which is equal to 198 pounds.
Wow, 6'5" is tall.
Yeah, definitely. And he had a beautiful deep voice and played an instrument called a banjo, which is kind of like a guitar with a circle in the middle.
Oh.
And John Henry married another steel driver, a woman named Polly Ann, and they had a son.
Oh.
Well, John Henry went to work as a steel driver for the Chesapeake and Ohio Railroad, or C&O. Chesapeake is located in the state of Virginia, considered a southern state, and Ohio is considered a Midwestern state, but both are near each other, near the north central area of the United States.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Well, this company asked John Henry to lead workers on a project to extend the railroad into the Allegheny Mountains.
Okay, Heidi, but where's the Allegheny Mountains?
Well, Millicent, The Allegheny Mountain Range is in America, and it runs for about 400 miles through the states. And it starts at the north central state of Pennsylvania, and it goes southward through western Maryland and eastern West Virginia. And that was the route that they wanted John Henry to help extend the railroad to.
I see.
So the workers made good progress on the project until they started working near Big Bend Mountain in West Virginia. Now, this mountain was very, very large, and the company's owners said the mountain was too big to build a railroad around it.
Oh, no.
No, don't worry. This is what happened. So the workers were told they had to force their drills through it. This meant creating a tunnel more than 1.5 kilometers long. That's equal to a tunnel of almost a mile long, Millicent.
Wow, Heidi, that's huge.
Yeah. Well, the project required about 1,000 laborers and lasted 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah, they worked very, very hard. The pay was low and the work was difficult. The workers had to breathe thick black smoke and dust. Hundreds of men became sick and many died.
Oh, no, Heidi. I didn't know this.
Yeah, I know, Millicent. But it's important to let people know what happened to our ancestors. Meaning, that's all the people that came before us, Millicent, right?
Yes, that's definitely important to know.
Yes. Well, John Henry was the strongest and fastest man involved in the project. He used a hammer that weighed more than 6 kilograms, which is equal to 13 pounds. That's a heavy hammer.
Yes.
And some people say he was able to cut a path of 3 to 6 meters a day into the tunnel. And that's equal to 9 to 19 feet a day. That's very deep into the tunnel every single day.
Wow.
Well, that July was the hottest month ever in West Virginia. Many workers became tired and weak in the heat. John Henry was concerned his friends might lose their jobs. So he picked up their hammers and began doing their work as well.
Wow.
Yeah. One week, he did his own work and that of several other steel drivers. He worked day and night, rarely stopping to eat, and the men thanked John Henry for his help. He just smiled and said, "A man ain't nothing but a man. He has just got to do his best."
Wow.
Well, the extreme heat continued for weeks now, and one day a salesman came to the work area with a new drilling machine powered by steam.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he said it could drill holes faster than 12 men working together. And the railroad company planned to buy the machine if it worked as well as the salesman said.
Oh, no.
I know. But the supervisor of the workers dismissed the salesman's claims, and he said, "I have the best steel driver in the country, and his name is John Henry, and he can beat more than 20 men working together."
Wow.
Well, the salesman disputed the statements. He said the company could have the machine without any cost if John Henry was faster. So the supervisor called to John Henry. He said, "This man does not believe that you can drill faster. How about a race?"
A race? You mean like a contest to see who'd win, like between the machine and John Henry?
Yes, exactly, Millicent, exactly. So John Henry looked at the machine and he saw images of the future. He saw machines taking the place of America's best laborers.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he saw himself and his friends unemployed and standing by a road asking for food. He saw men losing their families and their rights as human beings.
No.
I know, Millicent. Well, John Henry told the supervisor he would never let the machine win and take his job. His friends all cheered.
Yay!
However, John Henry's wife, Polly Ann, was not happy. She said, "Competing against the machine will be the death of you."
Oh, like I said, I hope that's not true.
"I know, Millicent." She continued. She said, "You have a wife and a child. If anything happens to you, we will not ever smile again."
Oh, no. I agree with his wife.
"I know. I do too, Millicent. But let's see what John Henry does next, okay?"
Okay.
So, John Henry lifted his son into the air. He told his wife, "A man ain't nothing but a man. But a man always has to do his best. And tomorrow, I will take my hammer and drive that steel faster than any machine."
Yay, okay.
Well, on the day of the big event, many people came to Big Bend Mountain to watch. And John Henry and the salesman stood side by side. Even early in the day, the sun was burning hot. And the competition began. John Henry kissed his hammer and started working. At first, the steam-powered drill worked 2 times faster than he did. Then, he started working with a hammer in each hand. He worked faster and faster. Inside the mountain, the heat and dust were so thick that most men would have had trouble breathing. The crowd shouted as clouds of dust came from inside the mountain. The salesman was afraid when he heard what sounded like the mountain breaking. However, it was only the sound of John Henry at work.
Wow, John Henry's winning.
Yes, he is. Well, Polly Ann and her son cheered when the machine was pulled from the tunnel. It had broken down. Polly Ann urged John Henry to come out, but he kept working. Faster and faster. Oh no! He dug deep into the darkness, hitting the steel so hard that his body began to fail him. He became weak, and his heart burst. Oh no! I know, Millicent. John Henry fell to the ground. Well, there was a terrible silence. Polly Ann did not move because she knew what happened. John Henry's blood spilled over the ground, but he still held one of the hammers in his hand. And he said, "I beat them." His wife cried out, "Don't go, John Henry." He said, "Bring me a cool drink of water." Then he took his last breath. Oh. Well, friends carried his body from the mountain, and they buried him near the house where he was born. Crowds went there after they heard about John Henry's death. Soon, the steam drill and other machines replaced the steel drivers. Many laborers left their families looking for work. They took the only jobs they could find. But as they worked, all of them sang about John Henry and how strong and courageous he was. So he's known in history, in this tale, Millicent, as always fighting for what's right, and is considered a hero to this day.
Yay. Yay for John Henry.
The end. Well, Millicent, let's talk about freedom, okay?
Okay.
And how important it is to all of us, and that we're all treated the same as human beings and puppets.
Yes, and puppets.
Here on Earth. Right, Millicent?
Yes, and we get the right to even talk about this story and what it means to us. That's freedom too, right?
That's right, to be able to even speak about it all. Yes, Millicent, definitely.
Good, I understand.
Well, that's good. Well, it's important to note in this tale, John Henry fought for the rights of the co-workers and their families. And he's considered a hero because he represented being treated like an equal during a time when our rights as human beings in America were being challenged with the Civil War and mankind's equality. That's what that whole war was about.
Yes, I understand.
And in this story, equality for his fellow workers against the big industry or machines is just as important too.
Yes.
So, everybody, there are specific things we can think about after this, after hearing a tale like this. We have to ask you to ask yourself,
Yes, what?
are there ideas or things, meaning people, places, or situations you feel very strongly about that you would stand up for to defend in your life?
Well, I'd say I'd always stand up for the people I love.
Definitely for being treated fairly too, right?
Yes, right.
So we can understand what the tale of John Henry represented in all its entirety. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, everybody. We sincerely thank you for joining us today during this important month, and we hope we gave you a lot to think about as well. And what, Millicent?
Please join us again and check out some of our other stories or fairy tales on the rest of Read to Me, Heidi, right?
Yes, that's perfect, Millicent. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.